Hi, this is Misha. Today we thought we'd talk about this fresh batch of Yugoslavian Zastava M57 Tokarevs that are coming in now, because they've really done something quite neat with the trigger system. And I'm not pretending to be the first. Military Arms Channel brought this up already a couple of months ago, but we had some come in. I really like them, so I thought we'd do a little video. Why not? So I brought out the new import here with the new style safety. I brought out an older style import with the original type safety put on the surplus guns. For comparison, to talk about the M57, I brought out my Russian 1946-47 Tokarev, and it has one of the original styles ever put on Tokarevs brought over. And while we were at it, because it was next to him in the safe, I brought out a Yugoslavian Zastava M70, and this is in 32, and this has a different type of safety as well, although this one is original to the gun. So a brief little rundown. A lot of people call the Yugoslavian M57 a Tokarev, and it's a derivation of the Tokarev, but much like Zastava did with their other guns, for example the SKS or their AK series, they were not content just to straight copy the Soviet. In 1957 they adopted this version, and it does still use the Browning system of the dropping link, falling link barrel system, and it still does fire 7.6225 Tokarev. It is still it's going to stick on the mag there, so I guess, there you go. It's still a single action only. Originally the only safety would have been the half cock here. Also, originally it would have a magazine disconnect safety. Show you here. It still does. That was unique to the Yugoslavian though, as were several other features. The mag here is 9 shot, so 9 plus 1 for a total capacity of 10, compared to the original 8 shot, so 9 total, 8 plus 1. That's one difference. Another difference we can show, if you look here, this has kind of an American GI style guide rod, and the Yugoslavian gun uses the newer, well not newer, but the other style of guide rod, the single piece, which you actually find on a lot of newer 1911s. I like this because it makes disassembly quite a bit easier than on the original. The slide comes right off as a complete unit from the lower, the frame, and doesn't spring apart, whereas on the original it all kind of springs apart, or you can just take the bushing off the front and do it that way. So I like that change. I think they did really well. Another difference, if you look at the mag catch here, you see it's just a simple smooth button, quite small, Browning style though. On the Yugo, it's a larger button, kind of dished in, and has some patterning, some checkering, so it's an easier to use release, I'd say, larger. It's another little difference they did. Obviously the grips are longer because of the longer magazine. They're also a little squarer, a little thicker. This is more rounded, this is more squared off. I also have the Yugoslavian coat of arms representing the different parts of Yugoslavia in here. Originally they had 5 flames, later they added the 6th in the 60s. We also have a Yugoslavian crest on top of the receiver, or excuse me, on top of the slide. They also added this ridge up here to take down on glare, which is quite nice. If you look at the Russian, there's no ridge. Also, our front side is completely fixed on this gun. On the M57, our front side is actually drift adjustable, so you can change it for windage. And these retained the small lanyard loop at the base of the magazine for quite some time. Before World War II and getting into 1942-43, Russian guns would also have this, but by 45-46 they would go away. The same with early versus late Polish, but Yugoslavia would keep this loop much longer. So there are more differences than simply the longer grip and magazine. One other thing to point out, if you take the Yugo mag, it will fit and work in other guns. It just hangs down, as you see. It's solid, not coming out. However, of course, the Russian mag and any other standard Tok mag will go in, but it's just a little too short to lock to the mag catch. So Yugo M57 mags in a pinch will work in other guns, but not vice versa for very obvious reasons. You don't always see that mentioned. Anyway, so they adopted these in 1957, put them into production, produced them through the 60s and 70s for the Yugoslavian military and police. And they remained in standard frontline service until at least 1992, and really they were used quite a bit through that nation's civil war. And today, Zastava still manufactures a version known as the M57A Alpha for the American market and others, which is similar to this, but it has a safety on the slide, kind of similar to a Beretta style safety, slide mounted safety. In the 70s, they would also introduce the downsized version here, known as the M70. It fires 32. It's basically a baby M57. What am I doing wrong? Safety's on. It still has a removable barrel. It's not fixed to the frame. Slide hold open, obviously. Slide release. Single action trigger. Detachable mag. Mag catch is similar to the full size. It's just kind of neat because it's a needle gun. Now these were offered with safeties because these were meant to be carried by Yugoslavian police officers and also some high-ranking military officers. So they did think to add the safety. Plus it doesn't have the half cock as on the full size. It's kind of a de facto safety. These are also being imported again. They actually were imported and they were very inexpensive for quite some time, about 12, 13 years ago. Then they disappeared and became quite collectible, and now a fresh batch has come in. There's also the M70A, which is a return to the full size here, but is in 9x19, and like the M57A, it has the safety. And there's a compact version of the M70A known as the M88A, which is again a slightly updated, modernized, and compact version in 9mm with the safety. So they are still making these, although they have not been in frontline of military service standard issue since the 90s. As to individual imports, this is actually a gun I purchased right when the M57 started to come into the country. I guess it was 2005, maybe 2006 at the latest, because they weren't available before. And this is the original type of safety they added, kind of a 1911 style. Here. So they cut back the frame, put a little hole in it, and they put a little notch in the slide. And And what they did, they kind of tied this safety to the magazine disconnect safety, so when it's up, it activates that and can't fire. So compared to, say, the added safeties that are here on the Romanian TTC, it's a better safety, but it's still added after the fact. Although I do believe these were added in Serbia, not in the USA, but I could be wrong about that, folks. As you see, it has the billboard import mark on the side of the slide, and this is how these came in for quite some time. But recently, last year, this new style arose, and it has two really neat changes. First, the import mark is on the underside of the trigger guard, which is great. It's not really readily apparent and visible. But more importantly, we got rid of the safety altogether on the frame. What some genius finally realized, that for import, the Glock does not have a manual safety as such. It just has this trigger tit type safety. So they thought, why not add it to a Tokarev to make it its safety? And this was approved by Customs. Now, the reason these guns need safeties, after 1968, the Gun Control Act, they set up a points system to make handguns eligible for import, and to gain points, a safety, target sights, target grips, size, weight, all mattered. So you need enough points for import. Having a safety gave this gun enough points, so we needed some kind of manual safety. And this is a way to do it that doesn't completely butcher the gun. And what's nice is once these are in the country, you could replace this trigger with the standard one, or just tape this, weld it, JB weld it into the trigger. Once they're in the country, it doesn't really matter if you take target grips off, target sights off, or in this case safeties away, because they're only added for import. So it's not like 922R where they have to remain on the gun to be legal. They're only on there for import purposes. Once in the country, no one cares. This, like I said, was the original style. This was the type used on the Russian imports from the early 90s. Also the Chinese Tokarevs used a safety here. So this was one of the earliest styles added to guns. And as I mentioned, there's also the style that appears on Polish and Romanian guns up here. There's a small one that appears on some Polish guns, and then there's the larger, blockier one that you see on later Polish and Romanian. So that's kind of the rundown of added safeties on Tokarevs in the USA. But yeah, whoever did this was very brilliant, because it satisfies the law as such without really impacting the gun's feel. The trigger is still fine for a military gun. It doesn't look horrible, and it's actually a reasonably usable safety. And again, we still have the magazine disconnect safety as well. It's not impacted by adding this. So yeah, that way we just talk about this a little bit. If you'd like to talk about your own M57s, we'd love to hear it in the comments below. Or really any other Tokarevs. And if Tokarevs do interest you, we have quite a few other videos on these, and also the Czech VC52 and Polish Tokarevs and so on and so forth. I've always had a thing. I really love how these guns shoot. The recoil impulse is a lot of fun, and the 7.62 Tokarev cartridge is just really an interesting, neat little cartridge. So it's always been a gun that I've enjoyed having. And right now these are very inexpensive. When Tokarevs are being imported, they've always come in very affordably, $200–300 tops. Right now you can pick up these Yugoslavian guns, and these are original military surplus from the late 50s and 60s, for a little over $200. They just come with one mag, but you can buy a holster with a spare mag. And they even have the cleaning rod that comes with the holster. It's kind of a neat cleaning rod. It's a little folding one here. So they do have the accessory kits with them. But the one thing that didn't seem to have was the lanyard, which isn't a big deal. Just a leather thong. Stick that in there. Just a little pocket inside it fits in. Just a simple flap holster. Yeah, but yeah, the current M57 with much more usable safety and less egregious import mark, at least compared to the original ones. If you liked the video, please click like, and if you'd like to help support us, please check out the link to our Patreon page. We appreciate you tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.